another week of Dear Piggy's Python tutorials. So we are on week 7, and today we're going to be focusing on one big topic, and that is classes. And classes are not only used so much in Python, they're also used quite a bit in other programming languages as well. So knowing how to do these is going to help you no matter what language you're programming in. Right? So here's the little itinerary for today. We're going to be learning about basic classes, creating a simple class, and maybe trying to put in another function inside of our class. And then in the next video, we are going to be working on a little project, and that project is going to be a fun one. And so let's get started. So what is a class? Before we get into the coding, I kind of want to give a few reminders, right? Things to keep in mind. And if this doesn't make sense to you right now, it is perfectly okay, right? Because as we start coding, we'll kind of think back to this. So first, Python classes are object-oriented programming. And this is a very popular way of programming. So this is one of the first most important parts in object-oriented programming. Think of Python classes like blueprints for your creation. So we will keep that in mind when we talk about instances, but for now, kind of just use that metaphor/simile to help you guide your understanding. Third is your constructor function, which is your init function. This will make more sense as we write our code, but keep in mind that anytime you write a class in Python, you always need to have your constructor function. Next is the self parameter. This self parameter must be the first parameter in any function that you write in your class, whether it's your constructor init function or any other random function that you write for your class. But it has to be the first parameter. It always has to be there, guys, but you can rename it as long as the name remains consistent. And last but not least, let's go back to our blueprint idea. So classes have instances, and these are kind of like a kind of class. So for example, if our class is called person, Sunny, me, I would be an instance, right? Because I am a kind of person. You would be an instance of the class person because you are another kind of person. So in a way, we can think about it as blueprints. So if I was an architect, then I have a blueprint for a general house, right? We would hope that all the houses that I design have a roof, windows, and walls, right? So that is kind of like our general blueprint. It's something, a trait that all of our houses have. Now, every person's house is going to look a little different, right? But they're going to have the basic traits of our class. They're all going to have roofs, all going to have walls, and all going to have windows. So that is essentially how we're going to think of classes. It's like the general map, an idea of what is going to go on. It has some general traits, and the instances are specific examples that inherit these traits. So let's kind of not let me babble anymore, and let's go ahead and do a real example. So let's create a new tab, and then we'll come over here. Let's go to Repl it, and then I'm going to create a new REPL. Language Python, create our REPL. So the first thing that we want to do when we're creating a class is to kind of define a class. So we can say class student. We're creating a class about a student. And this is all that we do. We put class, and then we give the name, and then we give a colon. Now in our class, the first thing that we always need to do, if we look back to our slide, is create our constructor function. And in Python, this is the init function. Now we're really used to doing def function name and then putting parentheses, right? This, guys, is the same exact idea, except the function name is a little bit different. Instead of all words, it has 2 underscores in it and then 2 more underscores. So don't get misled by the underscores. All it is just part of the function name. And then we put our parentheses behind it. Now we need to pass in some parameters for our constructor function, right? And like I said before, the one parameter that we need for every single function, no matter what it is, guys, is our self function. So self. And so This is just like passing arguments into functions like we showed in the videos previously. But for our class, we can also pass in many more parameters. So since we're making a class about a student, we see that they probably have a name. Hopefully they have a school, and they maybe also have a favorite subject, right? So now let's take a look at what we're doing here. We defined a function, and the self, it's always there. This parameter is always there, and there's not really a reason why. It's just, it has to be there, guys. It just has to. And so name, school, and favorite subject, these are our parameters that we chose to pass in, and we are choosing these. Now, in our constructor function, we assign values to the parameters that we passed in. So name, school, favorite subject, we need to assign values to those. So essentially what the constructors function is doing is it's assigning values to our parameters. Now, instead of just doing name is equal to name, we can't exactly do that. Because we're in a class and we need to put self. So self.name is equal to name. Again, there is no real reason as to why self is included. It's just a must. So we do the same thing. Self.school is equal to school. Self.favSubject is equal to favSubject. I think we're kind of looking at this pattern over here. No matter how many parameters you have in your parentheses right here, you always need to assign values to them by doing self dot whatever it's called is equal to whatever it's called. So there's a little, we kind of understand what's going on. This is our constructor function. So this is our constructor function where we assign values to our, I spelled values wrong, values to our parameters. So this is the constructor function. Now let's go ahead and create an instance of the class. So let's come over here and we can say, in order to create an instance, this is how we're going to do it, guys. So pay attention here. I'm a student, right? So Sunny is equal to student. And so now when we put our parentheses behind it, you'll see that even Replit is prompting you to give a name, school, and favorite subject. This is almost like running a function where in the parentheses you give the parameters. It's kind of the same idea generally, except we have to set it equal to something. And so my name is Sunny, school, I go to Hockaday, and then favorite subject, let's just put math here for now, right? So this is our first instance. Again, Sunny, she inherits the general traits of the class student, which is name, school, and favorite subject. And we defined these traits inside of these parentheses and in the quotation marks. So let's go ahead and we can print. Let's do Sunny.name. We can print Sunny.school, and we can print Sunny.favSubject. All right, so now when we run our code, let's take a look over here. We run our code and we get Sunny Hockaday Math. Now, I know you guys are kind of wondering, like, what's the point of this? There's nothing very special going on, right? And I understand, like, that does make sense to me because we've only created one instance. If we wanted to create another instance, we can create however many instances we want. In this instance, we can call it Bob. Bob, like the minion from Despicable Me. Student. Name is Bob, not Bobby. Bob. Let's say he go to Banana School. Banana School. And his favorite subject is lunch. Sounds like the Bob I know. So now we've declared another instance of the class student. And so we can print out Bob.name, Bob.school. We can also print out Bob.favSubject. So now let's run our code again. Sunny Hockaday Math, Bob Banana School Lunch, right? So now we kind of are seeing why classes are so useful, right? We've generally declared our class in these first 7 lines. And now we can run however many instances we want. We can have as many instances as we want, and they will inherit these general traits. So again, this is code reuse. The reason why this is so helpful is because we could use our code over and over and over. Instead of having to create something new to assign the name, school, and favorite subject for just Sunny and just Bob, we now have a class. So we can create instances of a class that will save you lots of lines of code and is a great example of code reuse. So now we've seen how to make our constructor function, we've seen how to create instances. Now let's create one other function inside of our class, right? Let's go one level higher. So we're going to define, say we're just going to greet them. So greet, this is a function greet. Now what is the parameter that we always have to pass into any function that we have in a class? Self, right? No matter what function we're creating in this code, we always have to pass in the parameter self. So greet self. Since we don't need any more parameters as of now, we can just leave self by itself in there. And so let's say we can say print greetings to, and then we need to put the name of the student, right? Now, while most of you guys might be thinking this is all we have to do, as you can see, Replit is not agreeing with it. And this is because name is technically undefined. If we're going to use the variable names in any part of our code, we need to put self. So if you're just thinking of, if we usually just put the variable name inside of a class, we always need to put self in front of it. So now let's run these two and let's see what happens. So instead of doing print and then a greet, that doesn't make sense, guys. We can't run functions like that, right? So instead we do sunny.greet because we're saying run the greet function for the instance called Sunny. Run the greet function for the instance called Bob. So now let's see, we run our code and we get Sunny, Hockaday, math. Greetings to Sunny. Bob, banana school lunch. Greetings to Bob. So let's kind of go over what we've done here. Okay, the first step that we did is we declared our class called student and we gave it a name. Then we created our constructor function, which is really, really important, using the init function. And we passed in the parameter self, which is required, as well as name, school, and favorite subject. And then in our constructor function here, we assigned values to all of our variables. So that is what we did in our constructor function. Next, we created another function inside of our class. So another general trait or another action that our class can do, we called it greet. And we always have to pass in self as a parameter here. So then we just printed greetings to, and then instead of just doing the normal variable name, we added self in front of it. Last but not least, we created two instances, one called Sunny and one called Bob from Despicable Me. And so we created the instance kind of almost like passing in arguments into a function by doing it this way. We gave the values that we needed to give, and then we printed out each separate one, and we ran our greet function for both of them. And so this is the final product that we get. So guys, this is our class video. In our next video, we're going to create a project. So we're going to create another class on a different subject, maybe add a couple more functions in it, but same general idea. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. We'll see you guys in the next video. Can't wait. Bye.